Most people use keto as a tool to lose weight quickly. But as soon as they lose the weight, they go back to their standard diet. Have you ever done that? Do you know anyone who's done that? And then what happens? They, or you, regain the weight. Believe it or not, there's an element of perfectionism at work here. I thought I was actually done talking about perfectionism, and then I realized I hadn't done a video talking about goal setting. And because, of course, I can't do, 80% of the topic when it's a perfectionism series, I'm here doing the 5th video. I really hope I don't think of a 6th idea. When it comes to setting goals, perfectionists tend to make goals based on emotions rather than based on outcomes that they're trying to achieve. Dieting is hard, and perfectionists see the goals as a battle that they have to win. This isn't the first time that most people are doing a diet, perfectionists included. And so there's a desire to maximize success. And in order to do that, the best way to do that is to make sure that you find a diet that is extremely easy to follow. If it's easy to follow, chances are I'm going to get it right and I'm going to lose the weight and there's no problem. Then you're also going to need a meal plan that's easy to follow and going to keep you on track, which then means you're going to need to avoid any scenario where there might be people who are going to eat things that are off plan in front of you. You're going to have to avoid parties because there's going to be foods that you're not supposed to be eating. So you need to be kind of not in those scenarios until you reach your goal. Then you're going to need to make sure that you work out every single day. You're going to make sure that you have a good sleep routine, and you're going to make sure that you start fasting, and you're only going to eat organic, and you're going to take supplements, and you're going to spend hours in the sauna. And basically, you're going to do all the perfect right things to make sure that you lose the weight. Perfectionists try to do 3,000 strategies at once to lose weight as fast as possible because, well, of course, you want to lose the weight and you want to but here's the thing. If I do that, if I just do everything I can possibly think of to lose the weight, I'm going to be extremely overwhelmed by this weight loss process that I've created, right? I'm doing this to myself and I'm going to burn out. I'm not going to be able to keep up all of these things in the effort to lose weight, or I'm not even going to start. Right? Because learning how to do all these things is just going to seem like too much for me. And so, this strategy comes with a built-in excuse, right? Because weight loss is hard, especially when you make the process extra difficult, extra large, right? It's too much. And then that excuse becomes my self-fulfilling prophecy. Working out is hard. Sauna every day for 20, 30, 40 minutes is hard. Like all the things I have to do is if things are hard, if we don't try as hard when we believe something is impossible, when something just can't work, then we don't try ourselves. We don't try as hard to make it happen. And of course, that causes problems, right? Because we're not going to be able to resist the garbage that's going to be in front of us. Obviously, if I want to do a healthy diet, my best option is to find that healthy diet. And what we need to understand is that your diet is more than weight loss. It's what builds and fuels your body. So right now, I just want you to pay attention to the fact that this might be what you're using to build and fuel your body. But if we would focus on eating healthy keto foods, because that's what's going to provide us with the best possible nutrition for our body so that our body can build itself properly, repair itself when it needs to, and fuel us in a very clean way. If we would focus on eating the healthiest possible foods that we could, what would happen? We would improve this, right? So the first thing that we need to think about when we are trying to do better is, what are we eating? I want to point something out because a lot of people don't think about this. Sugar is what is driving your weight gain and your poor health. It drives both things. Now, I'm not going to go into detail of how that works here right now. I have a link in the description, and I'm going to put at the end of the video, and it explains it all. I think right now what I want to do is I want to talk about the reasons that people start their diet, right? Because that's the other really important thing. The goals you're setting for yourself, right? So why am I doing this? What is my reasoning? What am I trying to achieve? Dieting is so linked to weight loss that whenever someone says, I'm starting to diet, that's the first thing that we think about. But athletes diet to be able to build muscle and to stay healthy, right? Athletes diet because they know that if they hurt themselves and they've been eating well, they recover faster, right? Athletes diet because it's part of them keeping themselves in a good place to do all the activities, so the healthy things that they want to do in their sport. If we make eating healthy a top priority, what happens? Our healthy body will actually regulate its own weight, right? So I eat the healthy foods, my body takes care of all the rest, and it makes sure that I'm rebuilt properly. So I go from that garbage I was eating before, where I was building an overweight, in pain, no energy body, to eating chicken, to eating healthy meats, healthy, low glycemic vegetables, maybe broccoli or whatever. You go from eating burgers with fries to eating fried chicken. And your body regulates. My body regulate, right? So feeding your body healthy protein with the fat that comes along with it is what is important. Yeah. We can eat vegetables. I always like to remind everybody, vegetables are for fun. To date, I still at least once a week have for supper 4 pieces of fried chicken, right? Why? Because it's healthy. And I don't have any veg with it. I have 4 pieces of fried chicken. I like the thigh. It's enough for me that I'm good for the next 24 hours. Why? Why not have 1 piece of fried chicken and a plate full of vegetables? Because then I'd be hungry before 24 hours. I really want us to think about what is the goal that we have for ourselves. Why are we eating the way that we're eating? Do we understand why we're changing our diet in the first place? And now, when I talk about why are we changing our diet, how do I measure if I'm successful in what I'm doing, right? I changed my diet. What was I trying to achieve? How am I looking at and measuring the outcome of what I did? The obvious first answer is, my weight. My weight goes down, right? So first of all, I want to encourage people, if you're doing this for weight loss, obviously you're going to be checking if you've lost weight. When you step on the scale, try your best to do it not every day. I have a lot of people that they're jumping on the scale every day. And honestly, I feel like all that does is point us back towards this negative thing that we're doing. We're making our weight loss about emotional. I want to be thin right now, rather than a positive outcome that's based on what's better for me long term. So if I get on the scale every 2 weeks in a weight loss scenario, I think that's great. At the max weekly. But if you can go monthly, that's even better. Don't let this be about a number on a scale. And there's lots of reasons that are in that playlist I sent you to. There's so much happening. Your body's trying to accomplish so much that week to week, the numbers might not look like they're going in the right direction as fast as you want. But trust me, if you let your body do its thing, you'll be amazed. I was seriously amazed for myself. I wasn't even trying to lose weight. I was trying to solve a hip issue. That was my reason. And what ended up happening is I ended up losing 70 pounds in 5 months. That's not a bad result. That's a pretty great result. But how do those things happen? They happen because you allow yourself to do what makes sense, right? To eat the diet. So part 2, how am I judging whether or not I'm accomplishing my goal? I'm eating the diet, right? So if I've chosen to eat keto, I'm actually eating a keto diet. If I'm doing paleo, if I'm doing carnivore, whatever you're doing, I'm actually following the diet, which means I'm not cheating. No such things as cheating on my diet, right? Because if I cheat on my diet, then I'm not doing the diet. Of course, I won't get results. The other thing, are you tracking? Especially if you're doing keto, are you tracking how much carb you're eating? To believe that you're just going to put veg on the plate and be able to guess that that's less than 20 grams of carb, trust me, it's more tricky than that, because none of us were aware that an apple had about 26, a medium-sized apple had about 26 grams of carbs in it. I know I wasn't aware. So if you would have told me that one apple would put me over what I could eat on a keto diet, I probably would have been shocked by that. And I was shocked by that at the very beginning of this, when I actually started tracking and realized I was nowhere close to doing a keto diet, although I was losing weight. So again, if you're trying to solve bigger things, though, you do need to do what you're doing appropriately, and that means checking. Another way that you're going to know that you are doing, succeeding at this diet is the non-scale victories, Wellness Warrior. And these are the ones that I really want you to pay the most attention to, because these are the ones that we don't understand how important they are. So, I mean, again, another obvious non-scale victory is my clothes are fitting looser. Okay, yes, that's an obvious one. But the ones I want to talk about are the ones like you have more energy. Now, I will say that most people will notice that they have more energy, and yet, right? Like, but we need to pay attention, not just notice it, pay attention to it, celebrate it, have more energy, that I'm sleeping better. I remember when I first realized that I hadn't had an insomnia night in like months, and I was just like, whoa, what is happening? My insomnia went away. I was in less pain, which was the reason I started keto. But a lot of people end up starting for weight loss and then realizing that aches and pains that they've had for years, things that they thought was the beginning of arthritis or was arthritis, go away. And it's pretty dang cool to be pain-free, right? Especially if you've been in pain for years, like myself, 23 years of living in pain, for it to go away. The best outcome ever, right? Maybe you're a person who was taking medication. If you're taking medication and you change your diet, you should be doing that under the supervision of a doctor. Just saying that out loud. But maybe you're the person who was taking medication and now you're no longer taking medication or taking less medication. There are so many non-scale, right? Have you maintained the non-scale benefits, or even the scale benefits of keto? Have you maintained it? So when you're making your goals for your keto lifestyle, so notice I changed it from diet to lifestyle. Part of the goal that you should be thinking about, even at the beginning when you're planning this out, is what will this all look like? And how do I maintain the benefits that I get from doing a keto diet? Wellness Warrior. Part of why I'm trying really hard to encourage you to not look at dieting as a quick fix, but to look at it as the thing that you do to keep yourself healthy, is because it's the thing that we do to keep ourselves healthy, right? And maintenance is going to be part of it. This picture says it all. In July, I climbed a V3 at the climbing gym, which was extremely difficult. It involved balance and strength. And I had to I persevere because I fell off that wall so many times, and I had to keep going at it till finally I was able to get all the way to the end. It took me being in good health, Wellness Warrior, for me to be able to do that. I only started climbing in March. Right? Yeah. So I've not been climbing for so long. Why am I saying this? Again, I'm saying this because we need to understand that whatever we're trying to accomplish isn't short-lived, right? Like even the fact that I fell off the wall and I got back on because I didn't have any fear of hurting myself. And it's not because falling couldn't hurt me. Of course, if I landed weird or something, of course I could get hurt. It's because I'm so confident in my body's ability to repair. Now, you fall onto cushy mats, so it's not like I'm in danger. I'm not in any danger unless I land weird, right? But I don't feel sore when I finish climbing, right? Like compared to when I used to take my daughter for bike rides, when back when I was heavier, 70 pounds, I'd be exhausted the next day. I would be tired for days. When we did any kind of physical activity, I was tired for days. Took her to the jumping place, tired and achy and in pain for days. And now I can climb. I can go longboarding. I can go skiing. I fall skiing and I don't have pain the next day. You can't imagine how happy that makes me. Maintaining is more than just weight loss, Wellness Warrior. It's all of the benefits that you get from your diet. And how many of us pay attention to those non-scale benefits of our healthy diet, right? So like I said, we notice them, but then we discount them because it's about the weight. And I know you're discounting them because despite getting results, so despite the fact that we lost weight, despite the fact that we felt great doing keto, how many people stop eating keto once they lose the weight, right? And there's this thing that we say, like, I tried keto and it was so easy. Yeah, sure, it works. But then whenever we do anything in life that we think is going to be easy and short-lived, of course we can manage to do it. We can even manage to do things that are hard if it's short-lived, right? How many people have families and have jobs and go back to school because they're going to get an increase in pay and it's only X number of months? I can do it, right? So even when it's hard, we can do it. So imagine when you're doing something and it's easy. Because we know it's temporary. Oh, it's so easy and I lose the weight. And I don't want you to get me wrong, because I'm not saying it isn't easy. But what I'm saying is if we focus on the fact that it's easy, we make a mistake because we lose weight. And then we think that, oh, well, it was so easy. I can go back to eating standard diet and then I can just, do it again. That doesn't work. It doesn't work because it's not because keto is simple, right? It's super simple. There's just one thing that you need to do, right? Is to keep your carbs under 20. That's the most simple of simple. Keto is the diet everybody should be doing. But we can't mess around with our body like that. No matter what diet you're doing, if you're yo-yo dieting, you're going to be in trouble. If you yo-yo diet, every time you go back to that diet, it's going to be harder and harder to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. For Health Warrior, it is. And I don't even know why that's the case. But somehow, mentally, we're punching ourselves in the face by quitting the thing that was working, going back to, well, you know what? I do have a feeling I know why it's happening. It's the addictive quality of garbage. Sugar is so addictive that when we put it down and then pick it back up, it's holding on to us even harder than it did the first time. So, and we've seen this with people with drinking, right? Where they'll go maybe even up to a year or two without drinking, have a drink, and then they're in it again for months, maybe even years before they can pull themselves back out, if they're able to pull themselves back out. We don't pay enough attention to the fact that sugar's addictive, that fun foods are controlling our lives, and that you can get sugar not only in candy, but in healthy foods, right? Those French fries that I used to love so much, bunch of sugar, right? Pizza that I used to love so much, a crust of sugar. There's so many ways that we get sugar in that's not just the chocolate that I also love so much. And so we need to be careful with ourselves, because if we're not, we end up stuck in a cycle of either just weight rising and we never get anything under control, or we get under control, realize it was so easy, and let ourselves go back and get stuck when we go back. Today's video is brought to you by my keto consultations. You know how to do keto, but you're having trouble just sticking with it? Book a consultation with me and we're going to get you back on track. The link is in the description. And all of this because we're not paying attention to the non-scale benefits of keto. And we're looking at it strictly from that lens of weight loss. If I lost the weight, why am I still doing this? Right? I mean, it's hard. And the worst part, if you're a perfectionist, is that if I eat off goal even once, well, I've ruined the whole thing. And so now, well, of course, I'm going to go back to the standard diet because clearly I can't do that perfectly. That's a mistake. Don't do that. The other problem is that if I eat off plan and I gain back a few pounds, I'm a perfectionist. That might make me quit as well because, well, obviously I screwed up. I don't, again. Now, we have to take the perfectionist cap off and look at life realistically if we want any measure of success. This is part of the reason I'm talking about all this. I want you to see the places where being perfectionist is actually harming what you're trying to accomplish, which is good health. And it really is unreasonable to believe that my weight is going to be at a staple number forever, first of all, in the sense that there's always variation, right? We have, anywhere from 3 to 5 pounds up or down that we might go. That's just normal, right? If my body is trying to solve something, it will create inflammation, which is going to help my weight to be higher than it normally would. That's not a bad thing. That's my body fixing me. And then, of course, you just have the normal variation of how much did I move today? Did I have a bowel movement? Did I eat a little bit more because my body was doing something? All the things that are going to impact whether or not your weight is up or down a little bit. So first of all, you're not going to have a perfect weight of, 135 for the rest of your life. That's not going to happen. The other thing is that we can't avoid every single party or social gathering. First of all, that's not healthy for us. We are social animals. We need to be around people. Be around people. Okay. Now, if I go out, I understand that I'm risking poor ingredients. Perfect in how I eat? No, of course it can't be perfect because I don't control every single dish if I didn't make it. Of course, if I go out to eat, I'm going to tolerate eating off plan a little bit, but I'm not going to binge. If I know that me going out to eat equals I end up binging, then that's a reason for me not to go out to eat. If I can go out to eat and eat on plan, then I go out and I eat on plan. If I go out to eat, by the way, and I get sick, right? So let's say because I am really sensitive to those poor quality oils. So if I go to a restaurant and I trust something and then I realize, oh my goodness, that made me ill, so I'm having pains the next day, my answer isn't I'm never going out again. It's just I'm either not going to go back to that restaurant or I'm not going to have that dish that I had at that restaurant. You need to look at your level of pain tolerance, your level, like how is the food impacting you? Because if you're getting sick, it might be worth it to you to say, yeah, I'm not eating out. If I don't eat out, does that mean I can't go out with my friends who are going out to a restaurant? No, that doesn't mean that either. Again, wellness warrior, I want you to understand something. I have gone out to restaurants with friends. They ate. I had coffee. Why? I wasn't hungry. There's no law that says if you're in a restaurant, you have to eat a meal. Of course, they're going to want you to order something, clearly, because you're taking up a chair. And yes, I will order a coffee or a tea or whatever, but I'm not going to eat a meal that I'm not hungry. But it's not about perfection. I want to just make sure I point this out too. It's about being honest with yourself and doing what you promise to yourself. right? Because what I promise to myself is to be as healthy as I can be for the rest of my life. So when I control the food and I know exactly what's in the food, I always make the food in a way that's the healthiest that I know for myself to eat at this point in time. And that could change tomorrow. I could see a video from Dr. Bickman or Dr. Westman or Dr. right? Like somebody like, and that from Georgia Aid or like any of these doctors and let me understand that, oh, that's not healthy and I've been eating it. And I would stop eating it. Why? Because being healthy to me is more important than some kind of fun veg on my plate, which I still have a little bit of veg on my plate. If I go out to eat or I'm in any scenario where someone else is controlling the food, I have to make a judgment call, right? If it mostly looks fine to eat, I'll eat it. And if I have a negative reaction, I know not to eat it next time. If it doesn't look in line with my diet, I have two options. I can pick out the parts that I feel like I could eat. Maybe the meat looks okay, but everything else looks not good or whatever. And I'll do that if I'm hungry. And if I can't pick out of that what's good for me, then I won't eat it. So that means that I would stay hungry if I was hungry in that story. And I can do that because I know something really important. I know that if I don't eat anything, even though I'm hungry, my body's going to click in and go, oh, we're not getting any food right now. And it's going to pull some energy from me. I also know that I theoretically could eat when I get home. So later on in the evening, even if I'm hungry enough, if the hunger doesn't go away. So let's say my body doesn't pull some energy and it says, no, Violet, you need some energy. When I get home, I'll eat. I don't have a cutoff time for when I will eat a meal, right? If I'm hungry at 10 o'clock at night, I will cook a meal and eat it. Why? Because my body is telling me to get a meal and my body doesn't care what time it is. So I do what my body tells me to do. Now, a healthy body doesn't only regulate its weight, honestly. It regulates its energy and its energy reserves. If you don't eat and your body goes into the energy reserves, it's doing that because it needed to do that. And if you don't eat and your body, although it did go into its energy reserves because it will always do that, is still pushing you to get food, it's doing that on purpose because it knows what you need. So rather than try to control everything, perfectionism, we need to let our body do what it does. Because my body's goal is to protect me and to keep me as healthy as it possibly can. That's all it wants, both physically and mentally. My body's always trying to solve to keep me in the best possible position. So as I mentioned, there's a playlist linked in the description to get you started on keto. And I would love it if you hit that like button since you made it all the way to the end of the presentation.